get into Adobe InDesign. So this is a page layout designing and this is a publishing designing software application. Thus, it could be used to create various works such as posters, flyers, pubs, presentations, books, ebooks, and many more. But first, take note that we'll only be covering the basics of InDesign or the features that are most likely to be used. So first, creating a document from scratch. So when it comes to units and increments, inches and millimeters are usually used. So please take note of this. And to create a document, you can go to File, New Document, and leave all the defaults. You can also go to Window, Workspace, then Reset Essentials to have a predefined size. So this can also be a solution when the panels end up in weird spots. So this is really helpful when you're new to Adobe, as you may accidentally drag the panels out of their original spots. So next, let's go to the topic of configurations of sizes, margins, and columns. So you can go to Start, then click New Document. You can see the blank document presets, and in this, you can pick from the typical sizes to use. And to view more sizes, you can click on the View All presets. On the right portion of the screen, you can see the width and height, wherein you can change the units and the actual numbers. You can also change the number of columns in this window. The orientation can also be chosen, whether you'd like the work to be a landscape or portrait. The number of pages can also be seen here. So the margin, bleed, and slug sizes can also be adjusted here. So it's important to note that the color of the margin is purple on the actual document. Bleed, on the other hand, is a term used in printing wherein it's the extra space or area that will be trimmed off. It's used to avoid strips of white paper showing on printed paper when cut to have a uniform size. So the color of this in the document is red. So it gets removed when you export your file to PDF. A slug is like a bleed, but a little more around the outside and is an area used to write notes. So to save the file, go to File, then Save, or use the shortcut Ctrl plus Save. So to familiarize yourself with the actual interface of InDesign, you can open a document in the application. The workspace is made up of an open document in the document window, which is seen at the center. The areas above are the different menus, and below that is the application bar. The tool panel is on the left, and the panels on the right is the properties panel. So you can arrange the workspace as much as you'd like, but this is the original layout of the software. So let's now discuss the different tools in InDesign. So the tools can be divided into different types: selection, drawing and type, transformation, and modification and navigation tools. A picture of the overall tools will be shown along with their shortcuts, and you can use it as a reference guide. So first, let's discuss the selection tool, which has the cursor symbol over here. So this lets you select entire objects. So to use this tool, just click on the object and hold Shift to select any additional object. Next up is the direct selection tool, which lets you select content within a frame or points on a path. The page tool helps you select the page's size, width, height, orientation, and its margins and columns. So with our multiple pages, you can choose the page tool to choose the page that you'd like. So click on that page and you can adjust or change its size, orientation, and etc. Next up is the gap tool, which lets you adjust the space between the objects. Just hover the cursor over the space between the two objects, then drag it according to the size of the gap you'd like to have. Lastly, for the selection tool is the content collector tool, which allows you to duplicate page items and put them on your open InDesign documents. The content collected is displayed on the content conveyor, which allows you to easily and quickly place and link multiple page items within and across open documents. Next up is the drawing and type tools. So the type tool allows you to generate frames of text and select text. So let's now get a frame in here, and you can just type words or just random things in this text box. So on the other hand, the type on path tool allows you to create and edit text on paths. So let's get a random shape over here, then click on the type on path tool. Just click on the random path, type the words that you want to have written or type, then you can see that they have a shape or they follow the line. The line tool, on the other hand, lets you create a segment. So the pen tool lets you draw both straight and curved paths, depending on which or on how you use it. Next is the add anchor point. So this tool lets you add anchor points to a path. So you could add an anchor point over here at a line. Then you can see a little shape that appears. So that is the anchor point. On the other hand, the delete anchor point tool lets you remove anchor points from a path. So click on this tool, then click on the anchor point, and you can see that little shape or that little point gets removed. And lastly, the convert direction tool lets you convert corner points and smoothen points. So click on this tool, then click on an anchor point and drag it to make a curve to your liking. So let's move on to the pencil tool that lets you create a free-form path. So just click on the pencil tool and just draw a random line. So that's the free-form path. The smooth tool allows you to remove excess angles from a path, which means that it smoothens paths. So click on the tool, press and drag the smooth tool along the angular path, and you can see that it smoothens out. The erase tool lets you erase points on a path. Click on this tool, press and drag it along a path, and you'll see that the points are erased. The rectangle tool lets you create a rectangle. The ellipse tool lets you create a circle or an oval. And lastly, the polygon tool allows you to create a multi-sided shape. To use these, just drag the cursor after clicking on your desired tool. Then you can drag it to get your desired size. The rectangle, ellipse, and polygon frame tool allows one to create placeholders in those shapes. So these frame tools are used the same way as the previously mentioned ones. So our next category is the transformation tools. First up is the scissor tool that trims paths at determined points. Hover the scissors tool to the place you want to cut and position it directly on a shape. So directly click on the stroke of the shape and click on another spot on the shape. Then use a selection tool to move one section of the shape away from the others. You can see that they are now two independent elements. The free transform tool lets you rotate, scale, or even shear an object. So let's discuss what these terms mean even further. Use the free transform tool to select the objects or object to transform. The rotate tool lets you rotate around a fixed point, or it lets you rotate objects around a fixed point. So just use a tool, drag it around, and you'll see that the selected objects rotate. Up next is the scale tool, which lets you resize or scale objects around a fixed point. Click on the tool and drag it around to get your object to your desired shape or size. Lastly, the shear tool lets you skew objects around a fixed point. Click on the tool and drag the cursor around to skew the object. The gradient swatch tool allows you to adjust both the beginning and ending points, and even the angle of gradients within an object. To get the gradient panel, double-click on this tool. Drag the button on top of the gradient bar, then adjust it to your liking. On the other hand, the gradient feather is used to make an object, or image rather, fade from opaque to transparent along a line controlled by the user. So first, let's get an image over here in this page. Select the image, Then drag the cursor from the part of the image that is to be opaque to the part of the image that you want to be transparent. So you can see that that's how the gradient feather tool works. We then now have the modification and navigation tools. First up is the note tool, which lets you add notes. First, let's have some text to annotate or give notes. Click on the note tool, then on the text, and a panel will appear where you can type your notes. Exit it, then click on the highlight using the notes tool to check on your notes. Next is the eyedropper tool, which allows you to type attributes or sample color from objects and lets you apply them to others. So use the tool, then click on an object with color, then you can click on another object to apply the chosen color. The color theme tool helps you determine the colors in a chosen object. When you use it and click it on an element, a panel of colors that you can choose from will appear. The measure tool measures the distance between the 2 points. So to use the tool, click on an object and then drag your cursor to another object. A window will appear that can help you determine the distance. The hand tool moves the page view within the document window. And lastly, the zoom tool zooms the document in and out. So you can drag your cursor over an area that you want to zoom into. Okay, so let's now get into images for InDesign. So in your document, choose File, then click Place to pick an image and place it in your document. So just click a random image on your laptop or on your device and that image will be used. So the place of the top left of the picture will serve as a basis on where the picture will go. But when you drag the mouse, the picture will resize itself to that specific dimension. Holding the Shift key while dragging it will make the picture's dimensions stay the same. Furthermore, to choose exact dimensions for the image, you can enter manual values in the Control panel. Okay? So dragging the boxes can help you crop the picture. The boxes, meaning the anchor points or the small boxes on the line or the blue highlight around the image. So holding the yellow box will help you move the image around, and you can also adjust the orientation by hovering your cursor near the corners of the image, then by dragging it around. So to select multiple images from your device, do the same as what was done at first or a single image. So let's go to File, then Place, then drag the cursor over the files you'd want to use. With that, you've selected them and you can use your arrow keys to go through the pictures. Here you can use the content collector that was mentioned earlier to collect these images. Hover over an image or text frame until you notice a blue border light around it, and click on these elements that you'd like to collect. If you click on something you don't want to, you can press the Escape key to deselect it. The collected content will be loaded to your cursor and the content collector panel. So go to where you'd like to place these items, press B, then click and hold on the content collector tool to access the fly out option. Then select the content placer tool. You can now start placing the content by clicking on the documents or by dragging the frame to the preferred size. You can also use the frame tools earlier, which are the rectangle, polygon, and ellipse tool, which are the frames, taught earlier to use as a shape wherein you can input the images. So let's have a frame tool over here. Click or insert an image and click on the frame tool, and you'll see that the image will be inputted in those frame tools. So let's move on to colors. So let's first get a rectangle for our colors to show in. To repeat what was said earlier, the rectangle frame tool or the rectangle with a cross acts as a placeholder for future use. So by using the rectangle tool, it fills with whatever the last color you were using, and you can change the colors inside of the shape. To make it easier to understand, the fill is the color used to fill in the rectangle, and clicking onto it, you can see the swatches, which are pre-mixed colors that InDesign decided are the starting ones. On the other hand, the stroke is the outline of the color, or rather the stroke is the outline of the object. You can adjust the thickness over here also at this panel. So if you're stuck picking between CMYK versus RGB colors, just remember that RGB is what your computer uses to mix colors, so it has a bigger color range with richer colors. On the other hand, CMYK is a washed out color that's seen in the printer. So let's now get into libraries. So libraries in InDesign lets you save graphics, text, and design elements that you use frequently. With this, it makes using them much more efficient because you don't have to go through the process of editing the design element the way you want it to. These libraries can also be stored as files on your hard drive or even on a shared device. So to do this, just drag a design element to the CC Libraries tab found at the right. So for this example, we'll be using a text box or some type of text, and we'll be dragging it over here. It'll be saved. Then you can also make a new group of libraries by going to the Create Group button. So that's how you save your specific texts, graphics, or design elements. So that's how you make a library. And last up is exporting. So to export the file, let's go to File, then Export. The drop-down menu will give you choices on what type of file you will export your outputs in. So after clicking it, wait for export, then you're done. So that's it for our mini crash course for InDesign, and we hope that you've learned from this.